Whispers of the Ancients, East Asia. Episode 7, the Jin Dynasty to 66 to 20 CE, fractured thrones and fleeting glory, the shattered crown. Before the echoes of empires faded into dust, before the war drums silenced in frost-laden fields, a dynasty arose in the ashes of unity, crowned not in peace, but in fragments of power. The Jin Dynasty, both resplendent and ruined, was a tale of two courts, one gilded, one grieving. It promised order after the chaos of the three kingdoms, but delivered a fractured realm, where emperors wept behind lacquered screens, and generals carved provinces like prey. Yet from this storm of ambition and betrayal, philosophy, poetry and painting bloomed, and amidst disunity, a spiritual transformation stirred the hearts of a weary people. Come, let us journey to a China torn between heaven and man, where dynasties cracked like porcelain under the weight of legacy and fate. This is the story of the Jin, a dynasty divided, a legacy eternal. Point 1. The ashes of unity, the fall of Wei and rise of Jin. When the last sparks of the Three Kingdoms era flickered and died, it was not peace that followed, but pretense. The Kaowei state, once dominant, fell not to war, but to politics, intrigue and silent ambition. In the year to 65 CE, Sima Yanxian of the powerful Sima clan took the imperial throne, dissolving Wei and founding Jin. He called himself Emperor Wu of Jin, promising a return to heaven's mandate and a Confucian harmony of old. The court sighed in relief. The warlord era was over. Or so they thought. The empire he inherited was frayed at the seams, a quilt of rival warlords, exhausted farmers, and jaded officials. Unity had been bought, but stability would prove far more expensive. A mandate restored, Emperor Wu was no fool. He sought legitimacy through ritual and reform. He married the old with the new, retaining Wei officials, honoring Confucian rites, and establishing schools and moral codes. He abolished harsh legalist policies, reinforced land ownership rights, and tried to heal a scarred nation with the salve of tradition. Yet behind the embroidered curtain, a deeper wound festered, the imperial clan. Wu's generosity became a curse. He divided power among his relatives, granting kingdoms to princes like candy to children after war. They smiled, bowed, and plotted the War of the Eight Princes. Barely a generation passed before Jin's great illusion shattered. From 291 to 306 CE, 8 imperial princes clashed like titans in a civil war that engulfed the realm. Blood spilled not for survival, but for succession. The imperial court in Luoyang turned to ash. Cities were razed, officials murdered, commoners conscripted. This was no war against enemies, it was brother against brother, a family devouring its own legacy. The dynasty that promised peace delivered apocalypse. 4. The crippled crown. Emperor Hu of Jin. At the center of this tragedy stood a man of soft heart and simpler mind, Emperor Hu, son of Wu. Afflicted by mental disability, he became a puppet on a jade throne. Princes fought over control of his hands, signing decrees with fingers not his own. When famine struck, it was said he once asked, "Why don't the people eat meat porridge?" Such was the sorrow of the dynasty, a realm ruled by the weak and devoured by the strong. 5. Invasions from the north, the Wuhu uprising, as Jin tore itself apart. Barbarian kings to the north waited with sharpened spears. The Wuhu, 5 non-Han tribal groups, pushed across the Great Wall like a flood of retribution. Xiongnu, Ji, Xiongbai, Qiang, and Di, names whispered in dread, stormed Jin's cities, torching palaces and desecrating temples. In 311 CE, Luoyang fell. In 316, Chang'an collapsed. The Western Jin was no more. 6. The flight south, Eastern Jin rises. Yet the dynasty did not die. Like a serpent shedding skin, it slithered south across the Yangtze. In 317 CE, the Eastern Jin was founded in Zhongkang, modern Nanjing, a court in exile, half a country, half a dream. Here, Jin would endure not in power, but in spirit. The dynasty became a mirror reflecting a fractured land. The north lost to the 16 kingdoms. The south, ruled by scholars and generals in silken robes. 7. Painting and poetry amidst collapse. Despite war, or perhaps because of it, culture flourished like wild chrysanthemums in ruin. The Orchid Pavilion gathering of 353 CE, where scholars composed poetry and sipped wine beside winding streams, symbolized a yearning for beauty in an age of sorrow. Calligraphers like Wang Zizi turned brush and ink into art divine. Philosophers contemplated Tao, retreating from politics into mist-wrapped mountains. This was not decadence, it was defiance. A civilization choosing elegance over annihilation paid. Taoist retreat and Buddhist ascent. With Confucian order crumbling, new paths beckoned. Taoism, with its reverence for nature and mystery, became the refuge of the weary. But it was Buddhism, arriving from India along the Silk Roads, that offered salvation. Temples rose beside ruined palaces. Monks preached karma where ministers once plotted. The wheel of Dharma turned even as dynasties fell. The Eastern Jin became a crucible of faith, a dynasty that may have failed to rule, but helped reshape the soul of China. 9. The rise of General Huan Wen. Yet Jin was not only ink and incense. In the mid-4th century, a general named Huan Wen emerged from the shadows. Ambitious, ruthless, brilliant, he launched campaigns to reclaim the north, wielding armies like calligraphy strokes across the map. He retook lost cities, challenged the northern barbarians, and nearly seized the throne himself. But fate, ever cruel to Jin, snatched victory from his grasp. And so the north remained broken, and Huan Wen died with dreams unfulfilled. 10. Collapse in slow motion. By the early 5th century, the Jin Dynasty had become a palace of echoes. Corruption festered, court factions squabbled, and the emperors grew ever weaker. In 420 CE, the general Liu Yu, having seized power behind the veil, dethroned the last Jin emperor and founded the Liu Song dynasty. Thus ended Jin not with conquest but quiet usurpation, a dynasty that had never truly ruled, only endured. Before we continue, dear listeners, if you're swept away by the ancient winds of time, if these lost empires stir your imagination, like this video, subscribe to Whispers of the Ancients and let us know in the comments. Which civilization would you like us to explore next? Your voice shapes our journey through the sands of time. 11. The weight of the crown. Emperor Hui and a tragedy of succession. When Emperor Wu died in 90 CE, his crown passed to his son, Sima Zhong, posthumously known as Emperor Hui of Jin. But the realm held its breath. For Sima Zhong was a man of simple mind and limited understanding, often unaware of the plots that whirled like smoke around him. With a ruler unfit to govern, the imperial court turned into a theater of manipulation. Concubines, ministers, and generals began crafting factions, but none wielded greater influence than Empress Jia Nanfang, a woman of ferocious intelligence and ruthless ambition. She ruled from behind the veil, issuing decrees in Hai's name, imprisoning rivals and eliminating threats. But such power, once tasted, invited envy. In 300 CE, Empress Jia was overthrown and executed in a coup, setting a precedent that would spiral into full-blown chaos. Thus began the most infamous episode of Jin history. 12. War of the Eight Princes, kinship turned cataclysm. The War of the Eight Princes to 1306 CE was no simple civil war. It was a relentless orgy of betrayal, kin turning upon kin, all claiming the right to guide the empire by controlling the feeble emperor. 8 princes of the Sima clan, uncles, cousins, nephews, each raised armies, marched on Luoyang, and seized power one after the other. Every victory sowed deeper instability. Cities burned. Peasants were drafted or slaughtered. The land groaned under the bloodshed. The war shattered what little was left of Jin legitimacy. Governance became a puppet show of generals and puppeteers. The imperial treasury drained, grain grew scarce, and local governors, seeing the center weaken, began acting as kings in all but name. More than a war, it was a warning that dynasties built on ambition, not unity, were doomed to collapse from within. 13. The Wuhu Uprising. The steppe strikes back. In the vacuum of power, the Wuhu, 5 barbarians as Chinese chroniclers called them, saw opportunity. These nomadic tribes, who had long lived on the frontiers and served in Jin armies, had watched the empire eat itself. By 300 for CE, groups like the Xiongnu, Ji, Xiongbai, Di, and Qiang rose in open rebellion. These were no mere raids. This was invasion and internal conquest by outsiders long suppressed. Chief among them was Liu Yuan, a Xiongnu noble and former Jin general. Declaring the establishment of the Hongjiao state, he claimed descent from the Han Dynasty, attempting to cloak his rebellion in the silk of legitimacy. The Jin capital, Luoyang, was sacked in 311 CE. Then, in 316 CE, Chang'an, the new refuge of the dynasty, fell as well. Emperor Huai of Jin was captured, humiliated, and executed. The once mighty Western Jin was extinguished. The north descended into the 16 Kingdoms period, a chaotic age of warlords and nomads ruling. Fractured realms, yet Jin was not entirely dead. 14. The Eastern Jin, a flickering flame in the south. As the north crumbled, members of the royal Sima clan fled south, crossing the Yangtze River. In 317 CE, Sima Rui, a distant cousin, established the Eastern Jin Dynasty in the city of Zhongkang, modern Nanjing. It was a government, in exile, ruling over the southern provinces. The Eastern Jin held no illusions of grandeur. It lacked the northern heartlands and relied on alliances with powerful southern families' clans, like the Wang and Zi, who supplied administrators and generals. The emperor was more figurehead than sovereign. Real power often lay in the hands of regents or warlords. But even so, the Eastern Jin gave China a fragile, flickering hope of unity. Its court produced philosophers, artists, poets, and monks who enriched southern culture. It kept alive the idea of China as one civilization, even as the north boiled in barbarian kings and shifting banners. 15. Bamboo and ink, southern aesthetics in an age of exile. If the Western Jin was an age of conquest, the Eastern Jin became an age of contemplation. Scholars, poets, and recluses gathered in the south, seeking to reclaim harmony in a world broken by war. Figures like Wang Zizi, the sage of calligraphy, elevated brush and ink into sublime expression. His work, flowing and spontaneous, captured the Taoist spirit of the age, detachment, simplicity, and nature's beauty. Others withdrew to the mountains. The 7 sages of the bamboo grove became legendary for their reclusive gatherings, wine-soaked debates, and scorn for political corruption. Confucianism, long dominant, gave way to a renaissance of Taoism and Buddhism, both offering spiritual refuge from worldly chaos. Temples rose across the southern hills. Buddhist scriptures flowed in from India, translated by devoted monks like Kumarayeva. The Eastern Jin was a dynasty haunted by loss, but rich in the art of survival. 16. Generals, regents, and a shadow of usurpation. No dynasty could rely on culture alone. The Eastern Jin had to defend itself against the Wuhu states in the north, against rebellious generals within. Figures like Zhu Ti and Wang Wen became legends for leading northern expeditions, briefly retaking lost territory. Yet even their victories were fleeting. The north remained unconquered. Internal rivalries, especially between military strongmen and the imperial court, prevented unity. At times, generals held de facto imperial power, appointing and deposing emperors. One such general, Liu Yu, would eventually end the Eastern Jin altogether in 420 CE, claiming heaven's favor and the people's will. Liu Yu usurped the throne and founded the Liu Song dynasty, first of the southern dynasties. The Jin dynasty, both Western and Eastern, was no more. 17. Legacy of the Jin, between collapse and continuity. The Jin dynasty is remembered not as a golden age, but as a cautionary tale. Its unity was shallow, its court torn by greed, its throne occupied by rulers unfit for empire. Yet, in its failure, it birthed a resilient legacy. It preserved the Confucian bureaucracy, kept the idea of Chinese centrality alive, and laid the foundation for Southern identity, a cultural hearth that would outlive dynasties. It reminded later rulers that power without wisdom leads to ruin, that empire is not merely conquest but stewardship, and it proved, through the resilience of Eastern Jin, that even a broken dynasty can offer light, however dim, in a world overrun by darkness. 18. Echoes in the mist, final reflections. In the long scroll of China's history, the Jin Dynasty might seem but a smudge between Hong glory and Tang brilliance. But for those who dwell in the details, Jin was a bridge between worlds, between ancient unity and medieval fragmentation, between north and south, between the sword and the brush. It was a dynasty of contradictions, emperors who were kings in name, generals who were kings in all but name, scholars who fled the court to find meaning in forests and rivers. It was an empire of fractured thrones and fleeting glory, yet from its ashes, the phoenix of China would rise again. Let us remember Jin not for its failures alone, but for the truths it dared to write in blood, ink, and silence.